on what Kim said, because when people come up to do their thing, they need the support. But everybody can't be duplicating services. So if you had like a concierge service where everybody kind of got together and agreed, well, we'll help support the mobile bike repair shop or bike wash, or as we talked in Oak Ridge, take care of your pets while you're out biking, or something like that. But have a central place where everybody can, everybody can't afford to do the same thing. And the other thing with the food, the one thing that I've seen before is a community kitchen, where you get a kitchen that's certified, and then people that want to do something with the local produce can come in, rent space, be certified. Then the kitchen can buy jars and volume or printing, or have a little warehouse.
Have like a refrigerator, like a commercial refrigerator.
Stuff that you can't individually afford, but if everybody grouped together.
Unfortunately, restaurants been said a lot, so I'm not going to say that. I'm wondering about transportation. Do we have all of the public transportation that we need, the shuttles and ability to get through with your bike or without if you're on foot? I'm not sure. And then how about a major attraction, a destination attraction?
Perfect.
Might be good for the list.
Well, in terms of transportation, I think Margaret touched on one thing. Some of us are becoming more mature by the day, and
like
some of
fine wine, George.
Huh?
Fine wine.
Yeah, the bus is good, but I think isn't there a service now where they're going to be running a van?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, getting started.
Yeah, and so I think anyway, to service part of our population up here, we need to think about transportation, fairly flexible in broad sense for doctor's appointments, dental appointments, those kinds of things. Well, actually, I'm going to say restaurants, but I'm going to say it a little differently. We do have some agritourism up here, but you never see any of that appear in a restaurant. And I don't think, if you did have agritourism tied into some of our local restaurants, in the off season, they're going to need something else. So they're going to maybe need to sell some of our local arts and crafts. They may need other things, to kind of, and then you could tie a commercial kitchen into all of that. And many of you know that the reason I've been involved in the community is I want a bakery, a really good bakery, and a good bakery would fit into this.
That's your end goal?
Very nice.
Huh?
That's why you've been here.
You're going to ruin
Whatever
it.
it takes, whatever it
If
takes
you want to know
keep
my
George
base
going.
motivation is I want great bread.
It's coming, George. It's coming. What are you doing,
Have you
Tyson?
thought of baking for your own?
Yes, I do that. But I think I think if you just tried to come in and do one thing, I think given our economy up here, it's not going to work. You're going to have to tie in multiple things. And I think the right kind of people could do that and do well. And we were talking about not having buildings. What we had, 2 across the road. Ken, you probably know more. I know of several.
Is there a central list of available spaces? Is that the something?
No, that's something maybe the
Judy?
CDC could take on, or the chamber.
Well, there's buildings that are listed and there's buildings that are not, so I don't have the knowledge of what's not listed at this time yet, because I'm still kind of.
I mean, I know like Veneta has a buildable lands inventory and a shovel-ready, like they have those types of inventories, and that's kind of the traditional business retention and expansion approach. And I think that that's something the chamber could work on, but it does need, some technical assistance, consulting with the land management department to make sure that we have the right zoning listed, all of the correct information. And I mean, I have access, and everybody has access to Lane County maps, and you can look at the different zoning, but there's pretty limited commercial lots and extremely limited industrial lots. I think there's maybe one or two.
Well, you know, there again, I know Harv and Bandon, and Harv was in charge of their Main Street program, and in that older Bandon area, they have lots of some vacant things, and he filled them all up. But the trick was you had a person that was focused on filling those empty buildings up with businesses, and we don't have that person.
Yeah.
And I was going to say,
Before I even went into real estate, I've always wanted to, because I live in Blue River, find somebody to put in a good restaurant on that corner.
Yeah, that's right.
And I always thought, where do you go to find these people? Do you go to the schools where they have new culinary schools and find out, hey, do you have a mom and pop that can buy this land for you and build your restaurant for you and bring it to the area? Do you want to live in a rural area? How do you bring these people in? So I'm still, I want to sit in and do some brainstorming and find out how we can make, bring to our communities, like we need something right here in the middle of the river. We need something in Blue River. And Finn Rock is a great mid between McKenzie Bridge, Finn Rock, and this area right here for bringing in that need for the locals to go without having to drive too many miles after they've had a glass of wine or a beer.
I think you get involved with the NEDCOs and the neighborhood economic development corp because they do
I know them
micro
real well too,
businesses.
so I'll chat with them.
You get involved with them. You get involved with the startup like Fertilab, where these entrepreneurs are starting their business because that's part of it.
Okay.
So we'll jump into that in
Yeah.
another conversation, but that's a very valid one to have. Before we jump off of other business gaps, you had a few.
Yes, I passed at the risk of sounding self-serving. I wanted to see if someone was going to say major attraction.
Yeah, I thought we were stating that, Steve.
And you did, of course, and so that's kind of what I'm about, is the interpretive center, which is, I'm not going to talk a lot of detail here, but our minimum proposal is a $16 million project, and fully developed is 43. So a world-class institution that would be more than competitive with the High Desert Museum at Bend. And George, you could always bring back Mom's Pies.
That would help too.
Well,
A la mode.
I think that we're missing a main street. I think that people, especially tourists, want to go somewhere where they can walk business to business to business.
Consecutive retail tends to be a very nice thing.
Consecutive retail is, and wherever it is, whether it's up near along the highway at McKenzie Bridge, or whether it's at Blue River, which would be perfect. Obviously not perfect right now, but just that place where everything is there.
And I felt that way too with Blue River, but we have to have the wastewater system, so that is one of our barriers that's keeping us from developing that area.
And I've captured that.
Land use law
Captured that.
changes would eliminate the need for a sewer though and make it easier.
So we've got both of those,
I
Margaret.
would like to put awareness out there of local existing populations, and the true purpose of economic development is to improve the quality of life. There is some low-cost housing that people cannot find anywhere else in Blue River. So I will just continue saying this, please be aware of their needs. Don't just bring in more people to bring in more businesses to overrun everybody who lives here. And that's why I put elder care assistance. There's lots of retired people. Let's take care of the people that are here. Some homegrown, locally spent money. I like the idea of better stores upriver, because I too only go downriver to buy food. So, those things too.
And those are very good points, and that's part of having a strategic plan, is how are we gonna take care of the people that are here? How are we gonna take care of what we do have? Blue River is the only urban zoned community.
It's not urban zoned. It's rural unincorporated community still.
You're working on
I was
getting it
told
to
by
it, right?
a planning development guy that it is the only urban zone, rural community of all the communities up and down the river.
It's still technically rural.
Anyway, without splitting hairs, the point is there's
I'm
potential
working on
there.
that.
And it'd be really nice if we could, because that's a great place to get more low-income housing or working wage housing, and to develop the community so it's sustainable, it's vital, we're providing the services. It's just not quite big enough to support the services it needs, and that is one of the challenges.
Right, and that's one of the systemic challenges in most of our rural tourism studio community space is around basic infrastructure. And that is unfortunately not something that tourism dollars typically can fund to fix.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that, yeah, you could have the low-income housing there, or you could have jobs for them too, for people to actually, so they could afford a nicer house.
I
So
think
I
that has to
think
go
there's
hand
a
in
little
hand.
bit of a chicken and egg there
It is.
in not making that area nice so that because you're afraid to drive people out their existing.
So one of the
Condition.
things that I want to share with you is around some of the new resources that are coming down the line from Travel Oregon. You may have heard that our transient lodging tax for the state is changing from 1% to 1.8%. That nearly doubles the Travel Oregon budget. Our grant program is going from $500,000 a year to $3.2 million, potentially a little bit less, a little bit more. Its own projections right now. We need to have shovel-ready projects for people to start applying for. Instead of just being our typical grant program that's open once a year or once every 2 years, we've split it into 3 different pots of funds. The first pot of funds is for 0 to 20,000, and that opens potentially as many times as 6 instead of just 1. The other thing is historically we've been about a 50% match. This pot of funds is now 10%, with the intent of getting more rural communities who may not be capital rich but are rich in other areas to have these funds accessible to our communities. That's a huge shift, and to me really exciting for our RTS communities.
Okay, is the 10% all cash, or can any be in kind?
I believe right now it's cash.
Okay.
I think. We're still working up the guidelines. There's still some things that are up and moving that we don't have completely solidified yet. Yes,
Is it limited to capital projects or planning could be covered?
planning can be covered in it, and all the guidelines are listed online.
Do they have to be shovel-ready, did you say?
It depends on what project it is. For what I'm talking about with the matching grants, no. For another piece that I'll talk about in just a second, yes.
Plain County loves matching grants, I'll just say, in terms of funding.
So that's the first pot. The second pot of money is 20,000 to 100,000. And that's, I think, will open either once a year or every other year. Most similar to our current matching grants program. And that, instead of being 50% match, is 25% match. And the last one is around 100,000 plus. There you have to go in front of the commission and present, and yes, that one is a 50% match. But that's a pretty significant shift to our granting programs. So that's one piece of funding.
Alexa, is that on a website?
Absolutely.
Could you,
I will send it out to everyone so that you have access to it, along with the guidelines that are posted online.
thank that, very helpful.
And beyond that, in February, mostly I think February, we're going around and doing a conversations with funders event. And I think there's one in Eugene.
There's one, and he's
Right.
got my printout that says where.
Perfect. That's
It's at the
great.
library in Eugene.
Awesome. So in addition to that, it's not just us as a funder, it's like 4 or 5 other funders that are in that room that are doing everything from cultural heritage to tourism. And they'll be in the room. So a really great opportunity to meet with them directly.
Yeah,
That's
and-
actually February
What day?
23rd from 2:30 to 5.
Yeah, and some of those funders are like a great match for the Interpretive Center and some of the other nonprofits here on the river.
Cultural heritage work, there's a lot of good stuff in that.
Yeah, and there's some stuff that'll get Margaret's attention.
So that's the big piece of funds. The other thing that is honestly the full reason why I wanted to have this meeting with you is the more that we know about shovel-ready projects that you guys could potentially be able to work on within a year and have results is around some of the regional cooperative tourism funding. Your RDMO could invest up to potentially 30% of their budget if they see fit across their entire region in shovel-ready investment projects.
So is that part of the 2.3?
Separate,
That's totally
different pot of funding. If you want to add anything about that, feel free.
Sure, so that process is kind of happening right now. And the Willamette Valley Visitors Association, which I'm on the board, has been that the RDMO for the Willamette Valley, which includes this region, we are going in front of the commission on Monday asking to retain that status. There is competition, so we don't know for sure that we'll get it. But that's the agency that has been doing this work up to this point. And we'll know on Tuesday whether or not we still have our job.
Yes. So potentially an exciting source of funding for whatever our DMO partner is the one to deliver on that, which could be up to 30% of their budget of the amount that they receive in regional cooperative tourism funds.
And I should say that that part of the plan for the Willamette Valley, should we be chosen, is a grant program to support these efforts. We don't have any numbers associated. We don't have the job, but there will be some dollars.
Yes. So there's a lot of potential exciting things in terms of funding for the next year. So one of the reasons why I'm asking you for this information is I'm pulling together all the notes of everything you've shared. I'll share that back to our partners inside who are handling the Regional Cooperative Tourism Program so that I can list for them, these are the investable opportunities that people can do within a year that will have actionable metrics. But the thing is, I have to have that information by next week. So if you're willing, I need you to help me come up with some of these key projects that you feel you could complete. I can share with you what other communities have come up with.
Do they have to be an organization sponsoring them, or are you talking individuals?
Not yet. There doesn't have to be a fiscal agent associated with it yet, but it is a key thing that we want to make sure there would be institutional capacity behind. So we've created a pretty extensive Excel spreadsheet, and most of the things that you guys have covered are also some of the key things that could be investable projects, specifically around capacity, some building of product development. I can go into those details more if you need it, but I want to hear your ideas before I share what other people do, so it doesn't mirror too similarly. So ideally, I would like you guys to break into two groups. The discussion that you're having is what types of key areas could we focus on that we could complete within a year. Part of that could be rare funding, if that was something that you wanted to move forward on. There's lots of different options. If you've identified some of the business gaps, is there anything there? Is there organizational capacity around supporting new product development in terms of like trails, building a new farm trail, getting more agritourism opportunities, attracting entrepreneurs, workforce development, investment in a destination attraction would probably be the best way to frame that.
Can you hire
Destination attraction.
Like you.
development directors?
It's hard for us to invest in the capacity of a position, but it can go towards some capacity. The problem is we don't know the numbers on that yet, and we don't quite have the guidelines completely fixed up yet. So I know that's hard because it gets a little vague, but that's where we're sitting right now.
Development of a strategic plan.
Planning.
Yeah, I
Key
think that
component.
maybe would be something if you guys really want to focus on your community development
Right.
goals.
You know, one thing we might just remind all of us, the University of Oregon Center for, help me.
Community Service Center.
Community Service Center, thank you. They would be willing to come up and do something called strategic doing with us.
Yes.
And there's some huge event. It's rather than planning, the whole emphasis is on getting it done, and you could do it within a time frame.
Right.
And so we might be looking at doing something like that before May.
Is that community development, or, you know, Carol's been talking, or the group has been talking about events and the signature events and how we need some strategic doing, planning and doing. Would something like that, it's a smaller piece, but would that fit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of the other communities have come up with some basic things around regional wayfinding signage, transportation issues. Yes, Carol.
Help!
Right, as
She likes
being
that
something.
idea.
Economic leakage and business gap training. Those things have come up. We Speak program here locally, developing photo assets, investing in placement capacity, implementation of towns to trails, additional farm loops. Those are all examples. Cycling investments and amenities. those kind of things. So I need a list from you of the key things that you think would be most valuable to work on that could be accomplished within a year. Like a strategic plan, those kind of things. So there's,
What do you mean when you say accomplished within a year?
could you complete a plan within a year? Could you
I'm sorry?
could you complete like a strategic plan in a year? Could you create a farm trail within a year?
Okay.
Those types of things. So it's not dream too big, things that will take us 5-10 years, but it could be a component of that, like a strategic plan that would get you on the direction that you want to go. Okay? So I could have you count off, or we could just split into 2 groups based off of which corner you're more in. Does that sound okay? Split into 2?
You guys might go to that corner.
Carol, if you want to go into
Yeah.
that side,
Yeah, I'll
Tyson and Ashley over to one side.
I really